We're live, Pawel.
Hey,
Welcome, everybody, and good evening to the Engineering Evolved podcast with myself, Brandon E. Grant, and my co-host, Pawel Krupa. Pawel, do you have a middle name or a middle initial?
I do have middle name, but I don't use it. So
Got it.
Pawel Krupa is fine.
Pawel Krupa. No middle name. We are here tonight talking episode 6. Episode 6, Pawel. Can you believe it? We've already been doing this for 6 weeks.
Yeah, going good.
There's a statistic out there that says episode 7 is the average length of all podcasts ever created. It's the average length. So if we get beyond that, we are above average, which is fantastic. We already knew that. And in celebration of that, everyone, if you hang out and watch until the end of the podcast, we have a special announcement because next week on our podcast, we have our first guest. I'm not going to tell you anything about her yet. We have a guest next week. It's going to be fantastic. We will make that announcement at the end of the show and then throughout the rest of the week. So what are we here to talk about today? Today, we're here to talk about motivation. And so one of our listeners, Pawel, came and put this question in on our page. I think he put it both to the page and he sent me a message. And so the question was this. Reflect upon your career and describe a time when your organization made the work feel meaningful. Now, last week, you and I both discussed this question as a subject and a topic, and really this leans heavily into this idea of motivation, right? What moves us? Why do we go? Engineering is not easy. Being a technical person is not easy. It comes with high stress and then slightly less high stress and then more stress. And then again, maybe slightly less stress. And then there's a day you take off. Like, it's not an easy thing we do. And while you can make money, it's also not the most lucrative for everybody. It's really a passionate, something that we're doing that we lean into hard because we want to, right?
Yes.
So for you, this question, I'll get to my answer later. Reflect upon your career. Describe a time when your organization, current or former, made the work feel meaningful. I'd love to hear what your answer is.
Yeah. So I worked as a contractor and as a direct hire. So I kind of seen it from the both sides. It is very different when you are a freelancer, you own a company and you're getting a feedback from the customer. And it's something else when you work for a company as an employee and you get a feedback from a manager. I think those are two different ways of getting a feedback and a motivation back to you.
Okay.
So when it comes to having your own company, when you get a feedback back, it will motivate you by itself because you're delivering a good product and you want to deliver more and you want to keep on with the good quality.
Right.
So every time there was a project, usually after each project or after some phase of the project, there'll be like a meeting where we give the feedback about, okay, how did it go? What we could improve? What went well? What went wrong? And I think those were the most crucial moments for both when I was working as a freelancer and when I was working as direct hire. And it's very important where the motivation comes from. Because when I was working as a contractor, we would need to distinguish internal motivation and external motivation.
Okay.
So when I was working as a contractor, it was the feedback I was getting and the motivation that was actually coming into me from both sides, internal and external.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe let me tell you why I feel like this. It was internal because one of my purposes, one of my goals was to grow the company, to do more, get better, deliver higher quality of the service.
Okay.
So getting external feedback, which in theory can be under the external motivation because there is somebody that's rewarding you for something. So getting that feedback, positive or negative, would encourage me to do more, to get better. And now the interesting part I would say is that regarding if that was positive or negative, it was in both cases a positive drive for me to do more.
Right. So if it was positive feedback or if it was constructive feedback, right? Either situation actually drove you to do better. So feedback in general was external motivation for you. Okay, keep going.
That is correct. Yeah. Now, when it comes to direct hire, I do believe that there is something different over there because, at least for me, everybody can feel it differently. It's more about external motivation. So, working as a direct hire, it might feel a little bit different because you might not feel that you make such a big impact on the company, especially like if you work at a corporation or like a very, very big companies,
Right.
and your position is not, let's say, significant for the outcome of the company.
Okay.
So that's where it is very important to understand internal and external motivation, because if the company overall goal is to improve something or to make something better, and your personal goal follows the same ideology or the same idea, then I do believe the feedback that you'll get, which will be external feedback, can fit as well into both. Because once you're doing your internal goal, yeah, is completing what you want to do, of course, with the help of other people in the company.
Right.
And at the same time, you're getting that external motivation, positive or constructive feedback that will also drive you to do more. So again, it might be very similar, but at the same time, if what you're doing, if you go to work just to get money, then whatever feedback you will get is going to be external feedback, and external motivation, but you will not have the internal motivation to do more. And the thing
Right.
about the external feedback is like it won't last long. Usually the internal feedback is the one that's going to keep you going, and it will keep your drive for longer than getting external feedback. And additionally, if there is no external feedback, so if you work at the company that doesn't give you the feedback, that's where the issue shows, because then, okay, you have nothing to drive you just go to work to get money, let's say.
Right.
That's the only thing. So you just go to money, you go to work, but you feel bored at work because there is no purpose for you. And even though somebody will say, okay, you've done a good job, like, you don't really care, and that doesn't really bring much into your life, because there is nothing to go after in that work, because you don't feel anything that motivates you other than the money. That can drive you for some time, but it will come to a point where you realize, okay, money is money, but I would like to do something else. And you might hit like the roadblock. So regardless of the motivation coming from your employer, you might not be able to overcome this and keep on going. That will be like a general answer to the question that was asked. So to go in specifics, again, I think the most feedback I got was after the project and getting the positive or constructive feedback that allows me to grow more in the area that I like and in the area that is my passion and hobby as well.
Got it. So for you, internal motivation is really what drives you, and what's what you have to be successful for the long term, right? The slow
Yes.
burn.
Yeah. I believe that all of the factors that influence the internal motivation are much more important for myself, and I do believe that internal motivation will last much longer. So
Got it.
whatever it's going to be, either learning motivation or achievement motivation or creative motivation or psychological motivation, so those will come into the internal motivation. If either of these factors is affecting you, most likely they will help you to keep on going for longer than getting some external feedback, positive rewards or negative consequences. So that is my personal opinion on the motivation. And if somebody is looking for a motivation for themselves, I think the best idea is like first find the purpose or find the hobby, find something that satisfies you.
Right.
And then you can build your internal motivation based on that. So I think the most common example that I'm going to share is like, imagine that as of today, you have as much money as you want, so you don't have to work. And what would you like to do?
Right.
And this will possibly help you to find out what you really like to do in life. So let's say, okay, I have all of the money in the world, what I want to do. Let's say I want to teach. Yeah. So
Yep.
then you say, okay, I want to be a teacher. So then you can kind of ask more questions into getting deeper into like what exactly is it that you want to do? Is it teaching children? Is it teaching adults? Is it teaching some specific group of people? Because you don't have to worry about the money that is normally, in many cases, one of the things that we try to chase.
Right.
So we get that out of the list. And then we are trying to find something that is funny for us, brings us joy, and it's meaningful. And this is creating the drive. This is creating the motivation. Like, okay, I always wanted to do this. Now I'm doing it. I'm getting a feedback from the people, and I feel that I do something meaningful, and I do it because I want to do it. And that is creating the drive for going forward and pursuing your goals and actually finding a meaning in your life. That's very, very short explanation of maybe what we can share on the such a short podcast.
Right.
But I think that is like a compact definition from myself what like the drive and the motivation is for me to do many things in life.
Awesome. I love that. I love how you make the distinction between internal and external motivation. It gets to this conversation, the elusive why, right? What's your why? But I think it's oftentimes asking people what their why is too elusive. So I really liked the way you did that with external and internal motivation. So for you, really it's the feedback. It's that positive and constructive feedback to let you know how you're doing and whether or not really the work that you're putting in has value and how you can improve it and increase it no matter where you're at.
Yeah, one of the factors definitely that if we ask about that question, but
right.
If we talk about like in life,
right.
So let's say we're going to stick with the programming, yeah. So for me, the biggest drive is the learning. So exploring more, getting new knowledge, and definitely sharing that knowledge. Like that's was one of the reasons why I have the YouTube channel, because I wanted to share the knowledge that I know, and like there was nothing else where people could learn from. Okay, there are forums and stuff, but anything outside to learn, and like, okay, now I have the ability to share this with other people.
Right.
And that brings another meaning to my life, and I want to do more with it. And because I want to share, I want to do other things, and that's like something that keeps on going. It's like a wheel. So like you have a snowball, yeah, and then like you push it out of the hill, it gets bigger and bigger. So that's like every day you learn something new, so it gets bigger and it goes faster. And basically that's, I think, a good comparison. Like what does it mean to get motivated every day?
Right.
So I would say what my motivation is: mostly learning, finding out new things, and solving problems, like for every engineer probably.
Right.
That's what motivates me internally, and I do not need often much of external motivation. I do, like everybody, but mostly just by myself and accomplishing stuff that I like to do. That would keeps on going for me. Like that would keeps me stay in positive energy and like keeps me going.
Awesome. I like that. I love that. The snowball analogy makes sense. There's a book called Good to Great where they talk about the flywheel, right? Flywheel, imagine a big giant heavy flywheel. The energy that you put into it is retained, right? So the more you put into it, the more faster you go. You have this momentum. You have this movement. I really like that. So for me, and you touched on these points, I've been thinking about this question, thinking about this idea of motivation. And it goes back to a TED Talk that I saw as a video, in RS Animate. It was like, I don't know, I think I went and looked. It was 14 years ago I saw this video first time. But there's an author by the name of Daniel Pink, and he presented this idea that motivation is actually counter to what most people think it is. And you kind of touched on it. So there's been a lot of studies by economists over and over and over again, and they figured out that for rote mechanical tasks, more money, bigger carrot, actually got better results. So if you can put 100 widgets in a box, I'll give you this thing. If you can put 150 in, I'll give you a bigger reward. If you can put 200, I'll give you an even bigger reward. Like purely rote mechanical tasks does work as far as that step pattern that everyone thinks about when they think about motivation, right? What they found, though, and this experiment has been repeated over and over and over again, and it's been repeated in so many different cultures across the world, is that as soon as it becomes something more than that rote mechanical, when it becomes something that is any step above rudimentary technical or rudimentary creative, right, where you have to go in and solve a problem, the result is actually the opposite. Bigger carrot, bigger prize, worse response. And they go into a lot of it, but one of the reasons why they found that doesn't work is because that external motivation of more money if you have a higher performance actually narrows your focus to where you miss some of the periphery solutions that might be available. So that's a really interesting side note. But what he goes on to talk about is he actually identifies 3 different factors for ways to motivate people at work, right? So their foundational thing is that you need to be paid enough that you're not worried about money. Financial stress is a huge stressor for your brain functioning, right? So de-stress your brain by paying them enough to where they're not worried about money. So take that off the plate. And then you have 3 factors. The first one is autonomy. So micromanaging as a buzzword doesn't actually work, right? It especially doesn't work for these creative, critical problem-solving tasks, right? How are you doing it? There's always the meme of like, come solve this problem. If I write the code, it's 150 an hour. If I write the code and you watch, it's more money. And they step through of all these different things, right? Autonomy and being able to solve the problem without undue influence is actually really important. There's examples he shared. The second one is mastery, right? So you were talking about one of your internal motivations is learning and then teaching, which I believe 100% that when you learn something, the best way to really lock it into yourself is to teach it to somebody else. Yeah. If you know something well enough that you can teach it to somebody else, then you have internalized it and have gone through all the different modalities, right? It's fantastic. So the second one is mastery. I've often said within the maintenance world or within the engineering world, knowledge is currency, right? There is mental capital. There is mental cash flow where if I have knowledge, if I know how to go and program a Fanuc robot from scratch, I have value. I have currency inside of this world because I can teach other people and they can come seek knowledge from me and we can exchange. Like it is a currency type thing. People want to get trained to improve their skills, right? Yeah. No matter where I go in life, my skills go with me. If I go learn how to program a robot, it doesn't matter what badge I'm wearing on my shirt. I know how to program a robot. So exactly. Knowledge is currency there. So mastery is something that you can go and build on. And then the last one was purpose, right? You were talking about that, wanting to feel like there's value in the work you do. And so, what does this look like for each? Autonomy is, not micromanaging, but one of the examples he uses is there's a company, Atlassian. I think they have Jira is one of their products. And they have, at least at the time, 10, 14 years ago, once a quarter, they would take a 24-hour period at the end of the week and say, you can work with anyone you want to and collaborate with anyone on any problem inside of the company for work. And the only rule is you have to make a presentation on what you've done and accomplished at the end of 24 hours at a party that involves cake and beer and all the fun stuff, right? So no stress, just go work on whatever you want to. And the innovations that came from that single day of work solved problems that they'd been working on for a really long time because it's people working on what they want to work on, right? Yep. A second example is the mastery, is like we talked about, you going out and teaching and taking time and effort outside your work, right? You have all of your work, you have all your family things, you have the extended hours, and still you go out and you make YouTube videos to teach people about Fanuc robots so that A, you have a legacy, you're passing on that knowledge, but B, other people can learn and come and support us as we move. So that's that mastery component. Purpose, and this is a really long answer. Purpose gets to what I think is the answer to the question from our listener /washer. So when I worked at Tesla, one of the things that they do is at the end of quarter, they have employee volunteers deliver cars, right? Now, the media has the traditional Tesla media response to this, but I went and did it one time. And what I found is that was actually one of the most meaningful things I could ever have done. Because what it does is it takes, at that point in time, I was working in the plastics department, right? I didn't even see the cars really get put together. So I am putting these things together, and it's the front fascia and the mirror covers, right? That's the world I see of Teslas at that point in time. And for me to go and deliver a car, like I see Teslas all the time. Like we're around them, we're surrounded by them, we drive them, we see other people drive them, we go down the line, we see hundreds of cars a day go by. It becomes commonplace for us. But the person who ordered the Tesla, who's waiting to get it, like when you get to deliver that product and just see their eyes light up and the excitement and like you are the representative of Tesla, like it was fantastic. It was so exciting and so enjoyable and endearing to see that product that I worked on, whatever part, go out the door. And so for me, that comes down to purpose, right?
Yeah.
Another example, when I worked for Berry Plastics, Berry Global, understanding where our plastic goes, like it goes into duct tape and bags and food containers, like that purpose, like how is the work that I'm doing when I exchange time for money away from my family, how does that actually impact the world globally and the communities at very different levels of locality? So I really like that, because you even hit on it, like internal, external motivation. Yeah, external, more money is great. I remember in microeconomics, they had the curve where it was like the diminishing returns, right? At a certain level for most people, enough money, and they actually worked less with the more money they got, because at a certain point of money, they wanted to go do things like hang out with their family or make a YouTube channel or whatever there, right? Once you hit that certain threshold, bounce back. I thought it was crazy when I read it in college. I totally get it now.
Yep, I totally agree. Actually, I wanted to add something because when you mentioned the delivery and the eyes in the people, there is something I actually that will also refer to the question asked is about my YouTube channel. And I remember like it was beginning of the channel. Maybe I had just few thousand, like maybe 3,000 subscribers. And somebody wrote as a comment on one of the videos, like, "Hey man, thank you so much for like what you do. Like I watch your videos, I learn a lot, and thanks to those, I got a job. So I passed the job interview." Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's another thing that will keep your drive going. Yeah, that means you put so much work and effort into creating whatever you're creating, and now you got that external feedback. So that's a good example of external feedback. But again, like it will last for some time. Like it feels great at the moment, but that's the thing about the external motivation factors. It's like they will come and they will last for some time. And then if they don't come for a long time, then you'll lose the drive. That's why those internals are so important for keep on going with whatever you like to do.
Absolutely. One of the things I do with my coaching is I've got people getting results. And so they're sending me, stacks back, and they're saying like, "Hey, since I've been working with you, I've lost 20 to 25 pounds. I've defeated my anxiety and my depression, and I'm no longer drinking." And those are all amazing. And those support the internal motivation that I have of wanting to help engineers and technicians find their sole purpose, right? Find out what they're wanting to do on the planet, so that we're actually putting time and effort into something that matters for us, right? This drive conversation really is one of the first things that let me know that A, this was important for me, and B, this is now what I want to do to help other people. So this is a really fantastic question.
Also, I think we always forget to mention, Brandon, we do that podcast, but we should always remind our watchers that they should go to engineeringevolve.com, and they can schedule sessions with us to talk and to get more out of their work. And I think we're so into the podcast, we're so into sharing the knowledge that we sometimes just forget to mention that.
Right.
That's also something that people can get out of us if they contact us over there. If you're interested, if you'd like to know more and speak with Brandon or myself, head to engineeringevolve.com. There's the contact information over there. If you want to speak with us, just send us a message and we'll be happy to reply back.
Absolutely. And while you're there, if you have a question you want to hear us talk about, go ahead in the contact, leave that there, and let us know what it is you'd like to hear us talk about. Our call to actions, we're still working on this, Pawel. It's episode 6. We're going to get a whole lot better at this. We'll have scripts at some point in time. It's going to be great. So should we announce yet the person for next week? No, I think we should hold off. We got like 5 minutes left. While we're telling the people, asking people to do and telling people what we'd like them to do. If you're watching this live, go ahead and put a hashtag live in the comments on whatever platform. That way we know who's watching live. If you happen to be watching replay, please go ahead and type a replay. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to type hashtag live because, that's where I'm at. Live on YouTube is where I just posted that one. So that's exciting. The other thing I want to do, and we're going to see over the next week, we're going to be putting a lot of posts. Right now, I run this podcast live, LinkedIn Live, from my personal page. Pawel can do it from his page, but we've just done it on mine just as easy. What we've done is we have actually created an Engineering Evolved page, where we're actually going to have this podcast be a page. And so if you're watching, please go and find the Engineering Evolved page, where I'm going to go make a link in the first comment below this on each platform, where you can go and follow and be able to, we're trying to do is this campaign. We want to get to 500 followers, because once we get to 500 followers, that's when LinkedIn actually lets us go live on that page, which is super exciting for us. I think we're at 2 followers right now, last I saw. So we've got a little bit of work to go. It might be you and me so far following us, but we're gonna do that. And next week, we're actually going to have a really exciting podcast. It's podcast number 7. And we are revisiting the topic of managing stress, right?
Yes.
Revisiting the managing stress topic. Now, here's the really fun thing about the managing stress topic. We are bringing in an expert. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest coming up. She is a PhD from Stanford and I believe Yale, but she got her PhD from Yale. She worked at Meta and she left Meta, and now she is a high performance consultant and coach. Her name is Dr. Let me pull up real quick the name so that I do not screw this up, because I don't want to get this wrong. Dr. Ezgi Exinar. Whew. Pawel, next week we are going to have to make sure that we can pronounce her name. That's one thing I didn't think about. Ezgi Exinar, and she is a doctorate from Stanford. She's coming on as a first guest to kind of help us talk about managing stress for high performers specifically, which engineering world, that's who we talk to. So I'm super excited about that. What's one thing you're most excited to hear from her about next week, Pawel?
Definitely, I think her approach, what methods probably she uses in order to get the good performance from high stress environment. I think it will be very, very interesting to get external feedback. Like we talked about the motivation already. We spoke about it twice, and I think like all of the topics that we're trying to cover, there is much more to be said, and definitely getting external feedback will be awesome. I think we're going to get a lot of value out of that conversation.
Yeah. And next week, we also have somebody who I believe is going to be helping promote the episode number 7. I think we have a corporate, I don't know if they're a sponsor yet. There's not going to be money exchanged yet, but they're definitely going to help us promote it on their page. So next week's a big kind of coming out party. It's going to be pretty exciting for us with episode number 7. So I think that's all the call to actions all lined up in a row. If you can do all of them, that'd be great. If you can do any of them, please pick the one please go to the Engineering Evolved LinkedIn page on the link that Pawel just posted under this on LinkedIn, and go and follow our page so we can get this going live there. What's been your biggest takeaway from this conversation so far today, Pawel? Like, what did you get out of this podcast today?
I think I'm going to mention once more, if you're looking for a motivation source, try for it to be an internal motivation source. So something that actually drives you, something that brings you joy in what you do, because that's going to let you keep on going much longer than external motivation, like for example, money.
Right.
I think that's what I would add. And one thing we didn't talk about is it's good to motivate yourself using the external motivation. So for example, watch some videos from time to time that if you feel a little bit on the downside, just watch something that will motivate you up on going further. Even if like a simple motivational YouTube video, just do it from time to time to unlock yourself and to get more out of you.
Right. So use external motivation. It helps. It definitely does. When you get client feedback, it helps. But the base driver, the burning fat as exercise, the long, slow burn has to be that internal motivation. You have to be doing something that you are internally wanting to do, or it's got to be a big enough why, like supporting and feeding my family, or living that soul purpose, or following a mission from whatever divine entity you have. Like it's got to be something big internal, not just the external money or wanting to look good, right?
Yep.
Awesome. Correct. Well, Pawel, once again, another fantastic episode. I'm super excited to have Ezgi on next week, and I'm super excited to see you next week as well. We'll be putting a lot of posts out this week for everyone to see and really starting to drum up this idea, because episode 7, we're above average and we're not stopping anytime soon. So Pawel, thank you very much.
Thank you, Brandon.
Everyone have a wonderful night. Be safe. And next week, when the announcements will be, I'll be putting PST, because don't forget daylight savings time. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you.